So it's been a couple months since the last tutorial. I actually recorded like two tutorials a couple months ago I was going to drop, but then I just never got to editing them. So one of them was a mixing tutorial just like this, but since then I've learned a lot of new things and a lot of new techniques. Well, actually not even techniques, but just my mixing in general has gotten better. So I just wanted to do a new one, and last week I recorded this, right? My OBS ended up like messing up and it didn't like record like 3/4 of the video. So this time I'm back to actually do it properly. I'm gonna be working with a loop specifically just so I can show the mixing process, not the beat making process. And also I don't think people realize that, you know, you should really be mixing loops as well, at least minimum mixing, right? Like there's already some mixing done and whatever, but you should be doing a little bit of extra mixing just to clean it up and stuff like that. There is no like one way to mix, right? Like everyone has different ways. You know, I see a lot of beginner producers be like, oh, so this guy do this, I'm gonna try and do it, and then it's just like making it worse, right? Try it out, try and make it work. If it's making your beat sound worse, just don't do it, right? Do what makes your beat sound better. That's the main and most important part. Luckily, I think what I'm going to be talking about in this video, it's going to be really basic stuff. The three sort of main points are volume, EQ, and like soft clip or master slash like other creative effects. So I don't really think it's going to be something that's going to make your beat sound worse, as long as you just understand it, right? It's very simple stuff. It's not like I'm saying, get this plugin, it's going to make your beat sound good. All of this is stock, except for like the creative stuff. I use Portal sometimes, that's not stock. Most of it's just stock. Like it's just really nothing really crazy, right? It's just like technique. Also, when you're mixing, you want to make the mixing job as easy as possible. Mixing isn't there to save it, right? It's there to make it sound like that extra bit, you know? But you want it to sound good unmixed as well. At least like 70-80% there, you know what I mean? Just like something. You want to have good sound selection. And when you're making your own melodies, if you are, you want to think ahead like, oh, I like this sound. I like this specific part of this sound. I don't like this sound, so I'm gonna, you know, do this. I'm gonna EQ it like this, whatever, right? You want to kind of think ahead a little bit. This gets easier with time. So obviously I got a loop here. If you guys do work with loops, a tip and trick that I only learned recently as well. Like I've been producing on FL for a long time and I didn't know this. But if you use MP3s, you know there's always like a little bit of silence at the beginning. If you go here and you just up the trim, it gets rid of it automatically, so you don't have to like, you know, drag it and stuff, cut it. But if there is like silence at the end, it'll usually cut it weirdly as well. But this one doesn't. It does actually. I'm gonna just, yeah. I usually put it on bar, the magnet, when I'm about to cut, just so like, right, it just clips it easy, doesn't do any issues. You want to get the stems, right? So you want to just cut it up like this, get rid of that, drag that there. So once you got it all dragged here, and then you like delete all the silence and stuff like that. You can EQ these a little bit better. So what I would do is I'd go like here, make unique, right? So the first one is already, you don't need to make it unique, then you just do this for all of them. As you can see, they're all unique. Drag left click on all of these, right? You come here, right click, channel routing, the second one. Now we actually get into the mixing. Drag left click, drag it all down, one of them, and they'll do it to all of them. I'll put a soft clipper, that'll be important later, but a soft clipper on the master is all I really use, unless I'll like for a specific beat I want something different, but usually this is all I really need. And that's the thing, right? You use what you need. You go to the first one. Actually, I'm not going to start with that one. Usually you could start with the first one, but I like to start with the thing that's the main part of the mix that I'm going to keep throughout the beat. And this is just too like thin. Okay, so what you want to do, the reason we started on 0 for all of them is because there's like a little area, right? If you start from the top and you start going down, you're going to hit the upper threshold first, right? And that's going to make it loud, like on the louder side of the gray area, right? Whereas if you start from the bottom up, you're going to hit the lower threshold first. It just makes it have a bit more headroom. And then if it's too quiet, you can change it later, right? But when it's too loud, first of all, it makes it sound better than it actually is. Like loudness makes the quality of the music sound better to you, so you kind of want to avoid that, right? And that's another thing, you want to mix every beat like on the same sort of like volume, right? You want to find a volume that sounds pretty good to you, doesn't hurt your ears for a long time, and you want to keep that same volume whenever you're mixing. That's gonna help with consistency. So you start with this. I'm gonna do something like that. I could change it later. So you do the volume. I just use the stock EQ2. I don't really want a lot of the highs. Actually, I do want some of the highs. I'll do this for now, and then I'm gonna also do this. But yeah, the thing with EQ is, right, people hate the sound by itself and they're like, oh, this sounds so nice. So they don't want to touch it too much with EQ. Like, oh, that's so nice, it's so full, right? But you want to give it a place in the mix. And I might even turn up the volume now. And I always experiment with chorus. Sometimes it doesn't sound good, sometimes it does. Nah. Maybe if I turn the mix down, but I think I'll just keep it without for now. I think that's good. I might turn it down a little bit more. Right, so that's like the main things, right? Volume and EQ. So with this, then I'll go like... By the way, when I do this, it's just like the mouse wheel. But it just makes it a bit softer, kind of. This one, it has a place in the mix. I don't really want to EQ it too much, just clean it up a little bit. Maybe chorus. This one I might try and add some portal on it. This is like creative stuff. I like this, it's like a bit crusher. I want this quieter, it's too much, it's too annoying. I feel like if I have this too loud, it'll be too like ragey, and I don't really want it to be ragey. That's the thing. I might not even include this in arrangement, but for mixing, I'm just going to show you guys like this. Right, but something like this. I can already hear I don't like some frequencies in this. I like that, right? You can feel it, but you can't really hear it. I like that. Again, it's like a living, breathing thing, right? It doesn't have to be final. If you keep working on it, and then you're like, oh, what? You know what? I want this to be louder. Then you can go and turn it louder. I want this to be less EQ'd. You can EQ it less, right? That's another thing. Let it be a living, breathing thing. Don't like, oh, this is final. I'm not touching it again. And I'll add chorus in this one. Leads usually sound good with chorus. I like the main in the background. Again, you could feel it, but you can't really hear it. I like the high end in this one. I'm not gonna mess with it too much. Yeah, I just keep the stock chorus preset as well. I just turn down the mix. There are other good choruses as well, but I just usually use this one. You know, it does the job, so I don't really need it. But like vintage chorus and stuff like that are also nice. With bass, I like it to be quite loud. Again, it depends on the genre you're making though. If you're making like more mainstream stuff, you kind of have it a little bit more tame. But with like underground stuff, it's usually quite like... And usually when the 808, when the bass in general comes in, that's usually when I end up turning stuff up a bit more, because I like having loud bass, but then when it's too loud and then the melody's too quiet, it just sounds weird. You know, like you can hear the mid and the highs too much in the bass. And this EQ here is really good to use personally, I think. Whether it's like you want to get rid of the low end, but you don't really want to do like crazy EQ, like in the, well, not crazy, but like more custom EQ in the thing. You just keep it on the normal settings, just lower it down, right? That's like a good way of getting the low out to make space for the 808. Like on a, not on the bass, but like on other stuff. Bass, I usually just turn it up. That's like thick. Pause. Now you're gonna work on drums, right? So I'm gonna pause that. And I would do this same sort of like thing even if I was making my own melody, right? When I make the melody and the bass, but not like the drums and 808, I'll do the melody first, I mix them, and then I start working on the drums and 808. Be back now. I did some really quick drums. I think that took me like 4 minutes. Nothing crazy. I just did something quick so I could show you guys the mixing. I actually kind of do like the drums, but I'd probably do more if I put more time into it. But this is a mixing tutorial, not a drums tutorial. But so now I've got the things, and I like being organized, right? So I got like the loop here, and then I got the drums here. So I just like it being separate, and I can, you know, I like knowing what is what, you know. So then I come here, the same thing with the drums as well. Literally the same thing. Drop that down. So then we do the same thing with the volume for the drums as well. And this is why the soft clipper was important now that we're going to mix the 808. Right, you can hear the difference with the way it works. And the way I usually do my 808s when I'm working on like a more underground beat like this, I try and make it hit like right below 0, right? Or like right around 0. So it's not too distorted. Anything above 0 will be distorted because of the soft clipper. So I make it hit around 0, maybe a little bit over, maybe a little bit below. Just whatever sounds good. Usually it's below, but I guess here it sounds nicer when it's above. And then I boost it a little bit here. If you were going for like something like, you know, a song or like Che, right, you do something like crazy like that. But I don't want it too distorted, I just want it a little bit. And if you're doing something mainstream, you wouldn't really want it to be distorted at all, really. But with this sort of style, I like it being distorted. Some artists don't like the distortion though, because it messes up their vocals. I like the drums being loud. You want the drums to be a bit louder than the melody. It just makes it sound more like bright and like crispy. When the 808 distorts as well, it also kind of distorts the drums a little bit in like a nice way. And the clap is usually going to be louder than the hi-hat. I think the 808 might be too loud. The mel in general might be a bit too loud. And this one, I mean, it's a living, breathing project, so, you know, edit it as you go along. I don't usually have the open hat this loud, but for this beat it just sounds better louder. So again, you know, whatever sounds good is what you do. It's this. I mean, as the beat goes along, you know, you're gonna start hearing stuff like, oh, this is too loud, this is too loud. You want to get the volumes right. I turned this down because it was just standing out too much, like in the full mix, so I just turned it down. Right, and it's also all about arrangement as well. If you could do the arrangement properly, it just makes stuff hit harder. You listen to, when I arrange, I just listen to everything individually first, so I know what it is. I don't want this until I think them. Something like this, where it's thin a little bit, right? Then you change it up a little bit. It just feels like a breath of fresh air. But when you get rid of like, because this was like the main thing in the mix, you know, this fills up the mix a lot, right? So this is equivalent to like a lot of these layers, right? So you don't want to like just go straight like this into it, right? Because then that's going to be such a big difference. You want to fill it up a little bit, then maybe later on you like take stuff away again like this, you know, and then you just sort of like that. But you could do stuff like that, split by channel, you know, so you got all of them like that. So I'll make it stop like here on the clap. I would do stuff like that. Yeah, I know this was a mixing tutorial, but now I went into arrangement. But it's just some small little tips, again, because it also helps with the mix, right? Because you mixed it all together, but you don't really want it to be all together. It's a pretty nice mix. I would spend more time, you know, adjusting small little things, but I'm not gonna bore you guys. And that's really it. If you get the EQ and the volume down, like it's just, that's most of it done already. It's just gonna clean it up. I know people add like reverb a lot, but if I don't hear that it needs reverb, I'm not gonna add reverb. People add reverb on drums. I hate that, to be honest. Personally, it makes it sound so bad, and I've tried to do it right, because a lot of people say like, oh, it needs reverb, so I try to put it and I try to force it, but it just made it sound so much worse, so I just stopped doing it. But if that works for you as well, you know, you do it. It's just whatever you think the sound needs. That's the real source, right? Listen, and what you think the sound needs, you give it. Listen to what the beat is asking for. Hopefully that explained it well. Hopefully you guys understood. So I'm gonna try and work on more videos. I don't even know what the next one might be. We'll see what it might be, but hopefully that helped you guys. So if you did, you know, the standard stuff, like, subscribe, blah blah, whatever. I don't know how to end this shit, man. I'm gonna just say bye, I guess.